Volatility Lattice is a simulation that opens up after the raid defeats system daemons. Its portal is guarded by optimized memory probe TX67. For many guilds, this will be the second boss to work on after system daemons and Limbo Infomatrix. Lattice can drop gloves and boots tokens, and also the support resonators and side blades for medics and espers. This fight requires 2 tanks and 3 healers. I recommend having each raid member bring 2 interrupts. Movement ability is useful but not required. Defense grids and critical hit buffs are extremely helpful during this encounter. You can begin the encounter by pressing the big red button at the center of the room. The raid will be divided into 3 groups: the North Ad group, the South Ad group, and the Data Devourer group. Lattice is by no means a DPS race, so I recommend doubling up on tanks and bring extra healers during progression. Upon entering the simulation, you'll see a large platform made of individual cubes. These cubes are similar to that of X89's hexagons, where certain mechanics during the fight will cause the cubes to disappear. Falling through the platform is a real risk during the encounter. You will also see 4 elevated red platforms near the 4 cardinal directions. I will explain what these do in a few minutes. Next is the exit power bar under your event log. When the exit power reaches 100%, the encounter is defeated. The fight is made out of 3 phases: the ad phase, the jump phase, and the shield phase. Phase changes are triggered at 20%, 40%, 60%, and 80% exit power. So how do you obtain exit power? During the ad phase, multiple data devourers will spawn at random cubes across all quadrants in 15-second intervals. Upon spawn, they will begin casting Data Devour, a 10-second interruptible spell that deals a small amount of damage in a large AoE and destroys the cube below upon completion. The Data Devourers have no interrupt armors and can only be interrupted once to reset the 10-second cast. Interrupting the cast will deal the same AoE damage. The challenge for Lattice is Malware Biter, which requires the raid to defeat the encounter without letting a Data Devourer go off. The map itself is rectangular, so I recommend dividing the platform into 6 square-shaped quadrants, with 1 DPS assigned to each of the quadrants for Data Devourers. Class with quick burst and fast movement such as Spellslingers and Stalkers are best for the job. Quadrants A and B can be covered by the ad groups. When a Data Devourer is killed, it leaves behind a white orb. Each white orb adds approximately 1 to 1.5% to the exit power when picked up. Note that the exit power given are slightly delayed. Also, during the ad phase, Avitus will continuously target random players one at a time and fire laser beams and chase those players around for 15 seconds. Simply kite the laser away from the rest of the raid. The players targeted will be announced in the Datacron channel. Meanwhile, at 25 seconds into the fight and every 45 seconds after that, the 4 circuit breakers located near the 4 corners of the room will become interactable as Avitus begins to cast a 10-second raid wiping ability. To stop the cast, all 4 circuit breakers must be activated. Once the cast is stopped, an obstinate logic wall will spawn at each of the 4 circuit breakers. Each of the ad groups should gather the 2 ads at their respective sides and cleave them down. Note that the very first wave of ads will spawn automatically 25 seconds into the fight, and the first wave of Data Devourers will come 10 seconds after that. The ads have 2 interrupt armors and can cast 2 abilities. First is Nullify, which places a square-shaped telegraph under a random player within its proximity. Nullify behaves the same way as the small bomb at X89, which follows the player and is dropped off after 3 seconds. The telegraph will then detonate, destroying the cube or cubes underneath it. Yes, unlike X89, a single Nullify can destroy up to 4 cubes if placed at a really bad spot. Players targeted with Nullify will want to drop the telegraphs off at the edges of the platform instead of creating random holes around the room. Players assigned to the Data Devourers should be wary of the ads' positions so they are not in range to be targeted by Nullifies. The ads can also cast Data Buffer, a 2-second interruptible spell that gives the ads a moderate absorption shield. Data buffers should be interrupted for moments of opportunity. The ad phase will continue until the exit power reaches 20%. Once your exit power reaches 20% or more, the fight will transition into the jump phase. The transition can either be immediate or be at the next Avitus cast. Remember one of those elevated red platforms? A green logic wall will spawn on one of the platforms during the transition along with several buffing stations around the room. When you run through a buffing station, you will gain an anti-gravity buff that will allow you to jump higher. Next, a series of lasers will scan across the platform. Everyone is required to double jump over the lasers utilizing their anti-gravity buffs. I recommend placing a marker, such as a campfire or vanbot, along the line 3 cubes south of the big red button. That is where the first 2 waves of lasers intersect. If you double jump as the lasers are 2 to 4 cubes away, you will clear both lasers at the same time. After the first 2 waves of lasers, a third single laser will come from the north. Jump over that and head to the wall. Upon reaching the wall, you'll notice a red fence around 6 cubes behind the wall. Everyone in the raid should get into those cubes, with healers in front and DPS behind. Next, Avitus will begin casting Obliteration, which will require the healers to keep the wall alive in order to shield the raid from the damage. The hitbox for the wall is buggy, so healers should try to aim towards the center of the wall to ensure their spells are actually hitting the wall. Defense grids help tremendously to reduce the amount of damage the wall takes, and any critical hit buffs will help the healers keep the wall alive. Shields and absorbs do now work on the wall. After Avid Hit stops casting, the wall will disappear and the ad phase will resume. Once your exit power reaches 40% or more, the fight will transition into the shield phase, and a new wall will spawn at a different elevated red platform. New buffing stations will spawn in the room, but this time will give the players a large circular telegraph around them. Players should spread out around the room to cover the cubes with their telegraphs. 15 seconds after the transition, any cube not shielded by the telegraphs will be destroyed. After the buffs disappear, head over to the wall for another heal the wall thing. If the wall survives, the ad phase will continue. At 60% or more exit power, the fight will transition into the jump phase once again, and a new wall will spawn at a different elevated red platform. This jump phase is identical to that of the first. If the wall survives, the ad phase will resume. At 80% or more exit power, the fight will transition once again into the shield phase, and a new wall will spawn at the last available elevated red platform. This shield phase is identical to that of the first. After the wall disappears, the entire raid must run to the southern edge of the platform and wait for the laser to scan across. After the scan is completed, white orbs will spawn at random cubes and the raid should spread out, run north, and collect the orbs until the exit power reaches 100%. A new laser wall will scan from south to north behind the raid, so don't fall behind and die. At 100% exit power, a bridge will appear at the northern edge of the room leading to an interactable chest containing the loot. The encounter officially ends when the chest is interacted with, so yes, it is entirely possible to wipe during the final run. That's it for Volatility Lattice. Stay tuned for more Datascape guides.